systems. Turkey focuses on cost-effective, combat-proven solutions. Their Bayraktar TB2 costs 1/10 of an. While you were scrolling social media, Turkey quietly became the 9th most powerful military on Earth, selling $7 billion worth of weapons globally. But here's what nobody saw coming. Their secret weapon isn't jets or tanks. It's something that looks like a kitchen appliance but fights like a predator. 20 years ago, Turkey couldn't manufacture a decent rifle. Today, they're outgunning nations that have been military superpowers for centuries. The transformation is so dramatic it sounds impossible. But stick around, because I'm going to show you exactly how they pulled off the greatest military comeback in modern history. In 2003, Turkey was importing 80% of their military equipment. Outdated Soviet gear, dependency on foreign suppliers, and zero respect on the global stage. Fast forward to 2025, they've achieved something that took other nations decades: complete military independence. And here's the kicker: they did it while making enemies into customers. But this story starts way before drones and defense exports. It begins with cannons so massive, they needed 60 oxen to move them, and an empire that ruled 3 continents before most countries even existed. The Ottoman Empire didn't just fight wars, they revolutionized them. When Sultan Mehmed II rolled up to Constantinople in 1453, he brought the Basilica Cannon, a medieval monster that made castle walls obsolete overnight. The Ottomans understood something that modern Turkey would rediscover centuries later. Game-changing weapons win wars before they're even fought. But empires fall, and by the early 1900s, Turkey was called the sick man of Europe. World War I nearly destroyed them completely. Then came Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, who threw out the sultans and declared something revolutionary. Turkey would never be dependent on foreign powers again. Here's where the story gets interesting. While other nations were debating drone ethics in committee meetings, Turkey was building them in garages. The Bayraktar TB2 started as a family business project. Today it's exported to 33 countries and has more combat kills than some entire air forces. The Syrian conflict became Turkey's testing ground. Every mission, every strike, every success was data. They weren't just fighting a war, they were perfecting a product. And when the footage from the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh conflict went viral, showing Turkish drones obliterating armor columns, the world suddenly realized Turkey wasn't playing catch-up anymore. They were leading. But here's what nobody expected, and this is crucial for understanding how Turkey became so powerful. The drone success was just the beginning. Turkey's 2025 defense budget hit a record $47 billion, and they're spending it strategically. While competitors build expensive, over-engineered systems, Turkey focuses on cost-effective, combat-proven solutions. Their Bayraktar TB2 costs 1/10 of an American Reaper but delivers the same results. The numbers tell an incredible story. Defense exports jumped 29% in 2024 alone, reaching $7.154 billion. Baykar, the drone manufacturer, exported $1.8 billion worth of equipment by themselves. That's more than entire defense budgets of some NATO countries. And here's something that should terrify traditional suppliers. Turkey doesn't attach political strings to their sales. No lengthy approval processes, no congressional hearings, no human rights lectures. Want drones? Pay the price, take delivery. It's that simple. Their customer list reads like a geopolitical who's who. Ukraine relied on Turkish drones against Russia. Poland, a major NATO ally, chose Turkish systems over American alternatives. Even Croatia, surrounded by EU partners, picked Turkish technology. When NATO countries start buying from Turkey instead of the United States, you know something fundamental has shifted. But the real genius isn't just in what they build. It's in how they've positioned themselves globally. And this brings us to the most controversial part of their strategy. Turkey plays by different rules, and that's exactly what makes them dangerous. They're a NATO member that bought Russian S-400 missiles, triggering the biggest alliance crisis in decades. An ally that fights other allies' proxies across multiple theaters. A democracy that operates like a strategic wildcard with nuclear-level unpredictability. This isn't confusion or incompetence. It's calculated brilliance that's reshaping global power structures. The 2016 coup attempt could have destroyed Turkey's military forever. Rogue officers tried to overthrow President Erdogan using F-16s and tanks supplied by NATO allies. But instead of weakening Turkey, it became their liberation moment. Erdogan purged over 15,000 military personnel, rebuilt the entire command structure from scratch, and asked the most important strategic question of the 21st century. Why depend on allies who might betray you when the stakes get real? The answer was complete military independence, and they achieved it faster than anyone thought possible. Their blue homeland doctrine isn't just maritime strategy. It's a declaration of intent that's making waves from Washington to Moscow. Turkey claims vast areas of the eastern Mediterranean, backed by naval power and the demonstrated willingness to use it against anyone who challenges them, including fellow NATO members. Here's what makes Turkey's military expansion truly unprecedented. They're not just building bases, they're building influence networks. They've got troops in Syria fighting American-backed forces, operations in Iraq that Baghdad can't stop, training programs in Somalia that are creating an entirely new African military doctrine, naval bases in Qatar that project power across the Persian Gulf, military advisors in Azerbaijan that just helped win a war against Russian-backed Armenia. The most telling example of Turkey's new strategic reality. During the Ukrainian conflict, they supplied drones that devastated Russian forces while simultaneously refusing to join Western sanctions. They kept the Bosphorus Strait open to Russian civilian ships while closing it to warships under international maritime law. They mediated peace talks between Moscow and Kiev while arming one side against the other. Only Turkey could pull off this impossible balancing act without facing consequences from any major power. When France and Turkey nearly came to blows over Libya in 2020, it wasn't because Turkey was being reckless. It was because they were strong enough to challenge a nuclear power and win the diplomatic standoff. French warships backed down. Turkish proxies advanced. The message was clear. Turkey doesn't ask permission anymore. Their Hisar air defense system costs half of Western alternatives. The Altay tank incorporates lessons from every major conflict of the past decade. Their naval drones can swarm enemy ships at a fraction of traditional missile costs. Every system is designed with one principle: maximum effect, minimum cost, zero political baggage. The market responded accordingly. Countries that never considered Turkish weapons are now placing orders. Nations that were locked out of Western systems found alternatives in Ankara. Suddenly, Turkey wasn't just a regional power. They were a global arms dealer, and the timing was perfect. Great power competition returned just as Turkey achieved military independence. Russia needed alternatives to Western technology. China wanted to break American military dominance. Middle Eastern countries sought protection without political interference. Turkey provided solutions to all of them. The result? In 2025, Turkey ranks as the 9th most powerful military globally, ahead of traditional powers like Italy, Canada, and South Korea. Their defense industry employs over 80,000 people and achieves nearly 80% domestic production. They've gone from importing everything to exporting everywhere. From Ottoman cannons that shattered medieval walls to drones that dominate modern battlefields, Turkey has never stopped innovating in warfare. The question isn't whether they'll grow stronger, it's how much stronger they'll become. With new conflicts brewing worldwide and traditional suppliers losing market share, Turkey's military story is just getting started. What do you think about Turkey's rise to military superpower status? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that subscribe button, and hit the bell icon because we're covering more shocking military transformations that nobody saw coming. The next video.
This was nice to watch, and I'm so glad I checked this out. At least I have a couple of ideas now, and I'm so happy to check it out. What do you think? Let me know on the comment section, right? Thank you guys so much, and see you in my next one.